So imagine turning up at a Dipner event and being in a position where you're in a negative equity position. When you add up all that you own and all that you owe, you're actually in a position that's not so great. And there's a few people around like that. And I often get the question, where people say to me, you know, I'm not in a great position. I don't know what to do. Should I join? And I always say it's not my decision to make for you. If you're going to put yourself in a worse financial position, if you're going to join a program that you're not going to use, don't join. But if you are going to join and you're going to do something, then please come along, because I've seen some amazing changes. So this amazing change is a guy that I've been watching for the last couple of years, and he's done an amazing couple of deals. So please welcome to the stage Mark Schneider. So I've called this one the third Anderson, right? And there's a reason behind that. Mark, you had gone to seminars and you were aboard. You knew what had to happen.
I've been around property most of my life, but it took me too long to figure out what the strategy needs to be if I needed a strategy. And I came across, Phil Anderson, the lunch money guy, did some deals with him.
So you've done Phil Anderson?
Did Phil Anderson. Was introduced to Bob Anderson, so I had a look at his program, but it was too early for me. I wasn't ready for that heavy development yet. And I ran out of Andersons. I didn't know where to go next.
So ran out of Andersons, went and joined Dipner Boholt, right? So for some of you that don't know the story, Dipner Boholt Dipner wasn't Boholt at the time, as an 8-year-old in a Poinciana tree had carved her name in Mrs. Dipner Anderson. And she marries a Haywood, goes through life, and obviously Anderson was going to happen. They have a split up. She meets another guy called Boholt, right? She marries Boholt, and she goes, well, there goes the Anderson thing. So they're applying for a business visa to the US, and Brian, in the back corner there, pulls out his birth certificate, and she looks down and sees a name that she doesn't recognise. Brian, everything else is in Danish, and it says Brian Boholt Anderson. And as it turns out, Anderson's like Smith and Jones, and Anderson by the father got cut off. So Brian then really instigated the Anderson. So now officially we have got a Dipner Anderson, right? So now the third Anderson came along. So you haven't run out of Anderson, slightly different spelling, but there it is.
And I only found out that last night, so that was hilarious.
Okay, so where were you at the time? You were a bit upside down.
I was very upside down. It was really tough. My wife and I ran a family business, and we came out of that about 180 grand in debt. Several stents and a heart attack later, it was time to start turning the wheels in a different direction. And I was really determined to firstly not go bankrupt. I did have a blue chip property that I wanted to hold on to. And I was very, highly motivated to trade my way through investments out of that debt. I didn't want to give up and saddle myself with a bankruptcy that would stop me actually doing what I wanted to do.
So one of the previous seminars you'd gone to were talking about house and land packages, and you'd gone off and bought house and land on the hope that it was going to go up in value and get yourself out of the upside down that you're in.
Correct. And so a big lesson out of that activity was not relying on third parties with vested interests and actually doing your own research, and so it's so important to jump in and leverage the tools that we now have visibility of. I didn't have that education back then, so things needed to change.
Yeah, and it's number one rule that Dipner says, if I'm here, if Dipner stood up here and tried to sell you a property, it's because she doesn't want it. She could afford to keep it. Why would she sell it to you, right? So make sure you take note of that one. Okay, so you had made some mistakes. You bought the end-of-the-line product. You missed out on 80k in capital growth in Brookvale, right?
That was an interesting one. Yeah. It wasn't a bad deal from the point of view of pricing. It was the right time in the market. This is getting into northern beaches of Sydney. Unfortunately, the footprint of the rooms were actually too small. So we're talking bedrooms under 3 by 2.7 metres. You'd fit a double bed and a bedside table, and that was it in the master bedroom. Made the mistake of buying it off the plan, didn't actually see detailed measurements, trusted my buyers group, and once I actually did the inspection, I realised this is going nowhere fast. and 2 years later I sold it for just a fraction over what I paid for it, and that's despite Sydney growing 15% per annum.
So you'd overpaid for it, it hadn't really gone up because it just had to catch up to itself, and you sold it for about the same price, but at the same time it was negative geared, so it was costing your super fund.
Correct.
Yeah? Okay, so along comes Dibner and she talks to you about positive gearing property, you know, and that all of a sudden the light bulb's on you.
Yeah, I'd obviously been, trying to do negative gearing deals for growth when I needed chunk deals to get myself out of debt. I mean, it's pretty common sense, but it's not until someone whacks you in the face with it you realise, okay. I've had some Mack truck moments, that was just another one.
Yeah. And I was one who sat in and watched Dibner and go through all the mistakes that people make in property, and I ticked every box. And, thankfully though, the ticks of those boxes meant that if she knew that I was making mistakes, if you were making mistakes, that there was an outcome, that she had a solution for it. Otherwise, why would anyone tell you you've made mistakes and then walk away? That would be demoralising. Now, over this period of time, it wasn't a great period of time for your headspace just before meeting Dibner.
Yeah. Oh, try not to get too emotional.
Welcome to my emotional stage.
My wife and I go through a really tough time. There's a lot of depression. It took me about 5 years to forgive myself for us not succeeding in our business and then making some ordinary property choices. So it's taken a lot of work. And in wanting to find the right mentor for what I needed to do personally, I knew it needed to be the left brain and the right brain combined. And for me, what I saw at the One Day Out was exactly that. It was about the mindset. It was about changing the way you think, not just about deals, but about yourself and what you can achieve. And it was actually watching the Millionaire Makeover during the boot camp. That was it. That was the moment. There was no turning back. And it's been fantastic ever since.
All right. So here's your position when you met Dibner, right? So just put that microphone on your chin and tell us exactly where you were at the point in time.
I was really surviving off the back of the Eureka apartment. This is in South Bank in Melbourne. It was a blue chip building. At the time when I was presented with the opportunity to buy that off the plan, it was either that or Docklands. And if you know Melbourne, Docklands is the one I'm really thankful I didn't invest in.
Thanks for parking out there at the moment.
Position. So the Eureka apartment, I was actually able to revalue it twice and establish 2 lines of credit. One to first get rid of or renegotiate a heap of debt.
So you consolidated
a fair bit of credit debt. But as you can see by the chart, I was still living with 50k or so, 60k worth of credit debt. Then I was able to revalue it a second time, and that helped me continue investing. So it's kind of crazy. With that level of debt, I was still able to invest.
Yeah, so you were lucky that one property that you bought was doing well for itself, which meant that you had to keep refinancing against it, though it was keeping your head above water. And sometimes, when you get to the low point of pain, sometimes the thing is you've got to go a bit more painful before you start to climb. And I've been there and done that. So let's talk about what you did.
I made a big call and decided, well, firstly, the easy call was to get rid of the dud properties. I didn't need to hold on to these negative geared properties. I've no doubt they were the right decisions. I decided to sell the Brookvale property in my super fund and actually leverage the change in the marketplace for financing super. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the other one was actually selling the Eureka apartment. I bought it for $320 off the plan. It was worth $520 in the market. And I'd always wanted to keep that. That was my super fund.
It's what you had to do to get to where you needed to be.
But I knew that property was holding me back, and there was another 35,000 apartments about to be released in the Melbourne market in the next 3 years. So the valuation on that was going to take at least a 10% dive, and it was going to go nowhere for a while. So the property that was holding me back was the one I actually needed to get rid of. Yeah.
So you took that money, you saw an ability, you saw Investor was seeking for some funding, and you bought some shares in Investor.
Yeah, I had that opportunity as one of the first round investors.
Do you have Investor?
I have Investor, I use it, which is a great tool.
Just no would have been a bad answer. And you put Peg and Sand, clear strategy. That's where you put your peg in the sand, you said, that's where I'm going to.
Yeah, I knew that from going through the pig in the sand process that I really needed to set my agenda around chunk deals or deals that I can extract my equity from and go again. So that was the new view, and my initial view was that probably subdivisions was going to be the best way forward because of the low entry cost.
So you go off, you go to a boot camp, you meet Steve?
I went to boot camp, met my JV partner Steve for a few of the deals that we've done, and we clicked straight away, and we thought, okay, let's get started, let's get serious. And the best part was that, and it's a great lesson for everybody who's part of this community, is never be afraid to go up and ask, because Steve was surrounded by about 15 or 20 people who were all wanting to leverage what he knew because he was doing things in real estate. And I walked up and said, I'm ready, I've got this, are you ready to move? And he was like, okay, here's who I'm going to work with. So it was just being ready and actually putting it out there. And so
you go off, you find this JV deal, at the end, you've put there, you only make, it takes you 12 months, you get a relationship, you start to work with each other, you know.
Yeah, we thought this was just a get to know each other deal. We weren't going to, lose the house, not that I had one, I was still renting. But 120k in, and we knew that we could subdivide quite confidently and get good value out of it. It's just that the costs of doing the subdivisions were higher than we expected, both in terms of the professional fees. In Victoria, it's quite cheap from a subdivision perspective per lot. So we knew we had a good deal. We made 13,000 out of it over a year. Didn't seem like a lot of money at the time, but we didn't go backwards. We built up a great relationship. We had trust, and we wanted to go again, but we wanted to find something bigger.
So this is one of my key points, right? I am ecstatic, and you've heard me say this before, I am ecstatic for you if you go out and you do a whole property deal, and at the end of the deal, you break neutral and you've lost your time. Because what's happened during that deal is you've gained so much wealth and experience that no university can give you, no TAFE college can ever give you. Only experience gets you to a better place. Taking the tools that Dibner brings for you and gets in place. So they made $13,000. They just got paid $13,000 for a university degree, because subdivision alone is a university degree. You go out looking for another property and this one comes up.
We were looking for something that was kind of like 4 to 12 lots. And this particular...
How many?
This one.
How many were you looking for? 4 to
12.
4 to 12.
Yeah. We figured those numbers made sense and we wouldn't have to spend a lot of money to do it. We came across this particular block. It was 20 acres and it had a lapsed DA on it for 85 lots. So we knew that the council was open to a DA. The previous owners had gone bankrupt. So it was getting dealt with through Court of Mentha. So it was all, getting sold by the administrator. And the council, a couple of inquiries, and it was very clear the council was very keen for that subdivision to go ahead with some minor changes. So
you go in, classic Overachiever, 4 to 12, ends up with an 89 lot subdivision, right? There were some wins in this one.
There were some great wins in this one. It's got almost 3 street frontages. It's a rectangular block, so it's got 2 full street frontages and half a street frontage on the other side. In the interim, while the council was waiting for a developer to either buy it or do something with it, they decided to make it a little more attractive by installing a sewerage substation in the corner within the boundaries of the subdivision, which our estimates were about 400 grand cost.
So 400 grand saving just by waiting time. That's fantastic.
And we got the land for 315. So it was pretty much a no-brainer on the numbers.
So you've got some stages in there. You've got a retail value of 6.8, construction cost of 4.5, right? So there's 4 stages and you brought partners in.
Correct. So because of the scale of this, and it was less about the purchase price, it was all about going to be the construction cost, how we finance it, can we self-fund it. It just so happened that 3 partners that came in, 2 colleagues of Steve's, all were very keen to self-fund. They had their own places and equity and they could leverage that. Steve was in a similar situation, and I'm the guy standing there going, where the hell am I going to get the money for this? Given where I was coming from.
Okay, so just let me get that right. You've got 3 partners plus yourself. The other 3 partners are wealthy in their own right. They run a big business. They build homes all day long, all the rest of it. They've got cash to burn, and you're over here with $13,000. Well, actually 7 after the 6,000 upside down, yeah, right?
Pretty much.
So what did you do?
One of the one of the skills that I bring to the table as a JV partner is that I understand finance, I understand numbers, I'm great with spreadsheets and detail. And the thing that the other three lacked, not because it's a person lacking, it's just their skill set, is about sales. So most sales guys are high flying, 38,000 feet. Detail, here you go, Mark, can you sort that out? So I built up an entire model for what this subdivision would look like over 4 stages, what the cash flow would look like, what all the costs would be. And it made sense to me enough that I could go out to my network, my friends, and ask them to back me into this deal. The greatest gift I had was a friend of mine who was the nanny for our son, who had no money, had no income. She had just sold her only investment apartment in Brisbane because she needed cash to survive, so she had about 120 grand in the bank. She was the first person to sign up, 40,000 bucks. And we both cried when we signed the agreement.
I'm with you, honey. Okay, so NBN.
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I work at NBN, I'll say that straight out. And I have to say that there's been no advantage that's been gained by me actually working for NBN or shortcutting processes. It was just so happened that I was being interviewed for another internal role that actually had to do with facing into land subdivision developers, but from the NBN side, so delivering the supply of NBN to subdivisions. And I said, I really want this role because I'm actually doing my own subdivision and I want to do more, but I understand the client side really well and I understand the technology side from NBN. I'd be great for this role. Anyway, they said, oh, where are you doing your subdivision? I gave them the address and they said, oh, so are we going in? And I said, no, because your rules are that if you're under 100 lots, NBN won't deliver fibre to the premise. You'll get fibre to the node in the future, one day. And I said, well, we're only 89 lots, so I'm assuming we didn't qualify because that was the rules. I said, well, it's actually changed. We can go down to 20. So they said, give us the address, we'll check it out. Within 3 weeks, we had approval. So NBN will now deliver fibre into Stratford because of this project, and the nearest point of interconnect for fibre is about 9 kilometres away. If we had have applied for this before June 30, NBN will cover all the costs of that backhaul being delivered into our subdivision. If we'd applied after July 1, we would have to fund 50% of that backhaul delivery cost, which would be well over $100,000. So timing and a bit of good fortune there.
That's a good deal. All right, so you go off, Brisbane field trip, you do your due diligence around there?
Yeah, with selling the Brookvale property, I decided that whilst I knew Sydney was moving, I couldn't leverage the footprint that I had in super. What I had previously as a 70% LVR, which was the rules in super at the time when I brought the Brookvale property, that was now changed to 80%. So I knew that with the capital I had, I could go into a lower cost footprint at 80% and buy 2. And my research was indicating that Brisbane was the next market that was going to move. So I did a trip to Brisbane to have a look at different sites, different projects, met builders, met some drafts people, finance people.
So you bought 2 properties, you bought this one at Annerley.
Two properties. I bought this one in Annerley. This one is an NRAS property, if you're familiar with NRAS, which is basically a government program that means the owners have to discount the rent by 20%. But in lieu of giving up about $4,000 a year, you'll get back about $11,000 per year in government incentives, indexed with CPI. So that one was a nice positive cash flow property to have in it.
And then you bought this one as well.
And I bought this one, which is due to settle around September, and got a good price on this one, so I was pretty happy with that as well.
Okay, so you've redone your super fund, you've sold out of that, you've bought 2 new ones, which are good, nice performing properties in areas where you did the research using Dibner's tools, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then you go Bendigo.
Bendigo is a really interesting one. I've been looking for a project like this. I think the ideal, once you've been to Ultimate, you kind of want to find the property that you can buy, subdivide, build, and sell the front one, turn it into a positive cash flow, and hold the back 3. So that's the intention with this particular property. And it was a large enough block, around 1,250 square metres, that with segregating the front house, I've got enough room to put 3 by 2 bed, 2 bath at the back. and I'm just going through designs at the moment, so I don't have floor plans yet. That's with the draftsman.
So the estimated gain here is over $200,000. So you'll get all your money back plus $75,000 in a redraw, so which is a great thing, and it'll be passive income of around $9,000. Yeah.
Yep.
So few things more important than property. You create a network now and help people out.
Yeah, we've got a fantastic network of people from the 2012 boot camp in Melbourne. We meet every month. It's open to others to come and join us. We just love hearing the stories of what people are doing. The greatest asset to me is that they're lovely people, they're trustworthy people. We share what's going on in our lives and what we're doing and what our objectives are. But everyone is happy to share what they know, share the lessons, and there's quite a few JV opportunities that have fostered out of that as well.
So you take your son to school once a week? What's the plan in the future?
I do now. My plan is to become a freer version of me. It'll be a little while yet before I can quit my day job, but I'm working at it. For now, it's about trading off the extra time I spend at nights researching property and managing the projects I'm working on. Is just taking the time out and maybe one day or 2 days a week taking my son to school or picking him up. And I've got flexibility at work that allows me to do that. But that's what I want to do more of.
So that's your balance sheet now, quite essentially. You've gone from -6 in equity and over $300,000 once by 2016 from what you've done in the last couple of years.
That's from the last couple of years and what is going to happen, because we've already got the actual costs for stage 1 of Stratford. So we pretty much know what the forecasted cost will be for stage 2, which will finish in the next 7-8 months. So this is what we're forecasting to complete and what my equity take from that and profit share from that would be. And that's going to, in the next 6 months, I'll be able to wipe out the balance of those credit cards that are still sitting at around 50K. So I cannot wait.
What would you say to people in the crowd? Give them some advice around what you've got there.
Yeah, just quickly, there are a couple of things that we've also been doing. There are some charities that we support that we can't do enough for yet, but we're doing what we can, and one of those is motor neuron disease that has been talked about in the media a lot lately. Reach Foundation, working with kids. Those are the foundations my wife and I want to work with, and that's a big dream of us, is working towards that. So one of the things I really loved about this community and the way Dimna presented it was that we're going to have all this fun, we're going to learn, we're going to build up an asset base and cash flow and everything else, but what are you going to do with it? And no one I met on the circuit ever described what we will do after we make all this money and earn all this cash. So it was really wonderful to actually have that community spirit being spoken about so clearly and so passionately. And that's, the thing I love about this group. The things that I really recommend people do is leveraging this network is really simple. It's just talking to people and sharing where you're at and what you're looking for and where you want to go. The greatest thing you can do is stop and understand what are the assets that you can bring to the table. Because if you're like me in a negative equity situation, you're trying to figure out where the hell can I go from where I'm at. Because I hear that from several of my friends, my wife's friends, $60,000 a year income, still renting, and they say, how can I move beyond this? And they're the people I'm reaching out to and spending time with about there is more than what you can see. And the hardest part for them is to stepping outside of themselves and actually thinking about how can I change what I do today so that I am more valuable to someone tomorrow. Because no one wants to be approached by a JV partner who says, hey, I'd like to do a deal, and what do you bring? You've got no money, no income, da-da-da. You've got to stop and think about, well, what can I change, what can I do, and where are my assets? For me, it was about really understanding FISOs really well, ability to jump into spreadsheets, do the numbers, and I was able to then leverage that with confidence to my friends, and I didn't even go to my family because I wanted to keep my family out of it. I went to my friends and asked them for their hard-earned, and I had the confidence to do it because I'd done the work. The biggest lesson for me was don't rely on others. Use the tools. There's so much data that's available to all of us. Get out there and research it. Understand exactly where you're at, where you want to go, what you can leverage in the marketplace to do it, and that sets you up with confidence to talk to people to back you into some of these deals. that's been one of the greatest lessons for me, to have the confidence to do that has been just brilliant.
Thank you, Mark.